Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of Crossing the Divide, the show that promotes and encourages common sense as we analyze and discuss the events and issues facing the town of Winchester. My name is Glenn Albanesius, and as always, I'm joined by my friend Ken Fracasso. Welcome, Ken.
Welcome. Thanks.
And tonight's show, we really have a potpourri of topics, and I think that we'll wade right into the first one, Ken, and start a little bit of the discussion on the reval results that were announced on Monday night at the Selectmen's meeting. The assessor's office came in with the vision appraisal team and basically outlined the results of the recent revaluation, and some interesting statistics came forth. Ken, I'll let you kind of walk through, and then we'll just discuss the results and where they might head us.
Well, as we had talked about this reval, way earlier, what the results would probably be, we expected that would be around 20%, and as it played out, we were right on the money. The average is around 16.5% to 17%. It's not completed yet. This was the initial phase of it. There is an appeal process that we have to go through, and I'm not telling you anything that no one's going to come to ask that their assessment be raised up.
Right.
So this is the best picture that we're going to have right now in front of us, but I'm sure that these numbers will be changing. Just to go over what the numbers actually were, Winsted evaluations down 18.5%. Lake property with no water was down 22.6%. Lake property on the waterfront was down 14.5%. Winchester, the outlying areas, were down 20.9%. Commercial property was down 11.3%. And industry was down 13%. And that leaves us with an average of roughly 17% decrease. So we're looking at a mill rate increase of 20%, or probably at least 5 mills. So and there's going to be people that are obviously going to pay more than others. If your assessment went down 16.5% or less, you're going to be paying a lot more in taxes. If you're above that, you may be flat around the 20% mark. But as I said, the mill rate will be increasing, and it's going to go up a significant amount.
Right, and the statistics you just read can clearly indicate that commercial and industrial properties, along with lakefront with water, those specific areas are going to see a tax increase.
Right, they're going to be hit the hardest.
Right,
especially commercial and industrial.
Which is unfortunate, because that certainly is a segment of the town that we want to try to protect and keep and maintain as best as possible.
Exactly.
So this reval really is going to be impactful and change the dynamics of what Ken and I see as far as the cost of government here in Winchester and how we change it so that it gets back to an affordable level. This is not unique, as we've said before. The numbers are finally rolling in, and in the discussion we had on Monday, the appraisal team seemed to indicate that this was in line with what had happened in other communities
throughout the state. No,
right.
That's absolutely correct.
Right.
Short sales and foreclosures were not included in the audit. I mean, that was, in the revaluation. That's a guideline I guess they follow from, I believe they said OPM.
Correct.
Sets up those guidelines. But, on a note to go along with that, I mean, if you lived on a street where there was, 4 or 5 or half a dozen foreclosures, and your property assessment may have gone up, I think those are going to be the cases where people that do come in and question their assessment are going to get, a greater reduction. I mean, it makes no sense. And in their reasoning for not counting the foreclosures, I believe they said that was like a family disaster. If it was, a single instance.
Right.
But I mean, if you have a street where there's 4 or 5 or more foreclosures, I don't think it's a family disaster.
Which we do have, and we're pretty sure in the downtown area that there were. We don't have the exact number, but we do definitely know that there. What we would almost call a trend as far as foreclosures. And again, as we've said repeatedly, the downtown area is a concern because that tends to drag, values down around it. And we see a little bit of it here with the numbers tonight. So as we've mentioned time and time again, we need to recognize what's going on and try to, do whatever we can to turn the trend the other way.
Right. The appeals process, you have to call or stop into the assessor's office and make an appointment to speak with members of Vision Appraisal and our own board, our own local board.
Right.
They'll be making appointments, and depending on how many people they come in, you will have an opportunity to be heard and to present your case. So we'll just see where that takes us.
Yeah, and I think they anticipated was 1% to 2% for.
That's what they said normally when they have a decrease in assessments, because there aren't a lot of people that come to complain.
Right.
But if, like I said, if you're some of the people that have been, had their assessments gone up or not dropped, what you think is a significant amount because of the trends or the areas that you live in, then
Right.
I think we might see some more people.
Right. And the point of this show, as we've tried to indicate right along, is to try to help local viewers, be aware of what's going on. A lot of times, we bemoan the fact that people don't go out and vote as much as they should. And here's a situation that is clearly going to impact, everyone sooner or later once the budget comes out next year. But we do want people to understand the process, how these numbers came to be, whether they will impact families and taxpayers, negatively. We want them to be aware of what the process is, as far as being able to appeal, and how it is possibly going to affect their tax bill next year. So we are trying to educate those people that take time to watch us, and it's an important part of what we feel we want to try to do with the show here.
Right. As part of that process, I did ask some of the members that were from the Vision Appraisal at Monday night's meeting if they could get us a copy of the number of households that were at the average, that were below the average, and that were above the average. Mm-hmm. 3 separate categories. And I've also asked them to give us those number results in geographical areas so we could track the areas and where those increases or decreases or those averages stayed the same. And I haven't received the information as of yet, but I did get a phone call that said that they're working on it, it's on the way. So that should be helpful too, in trying to track exactly where these differences lie.
Right, and there will continue to be analysis with these numbers because, like we have seen in other towns, it is going to impact the budget process, obviously, and the more information that we can gather and get out to people so they know what's going on, the better service we're giving our constituents.
Right. Well, I guess that's it for the reval for the time being.
Yep. And we'll keep people posted as we get information. I mean, it's going to be an ongoing process that's been stated to us, and as we get more details, we'll certainly be glad to share them when we meet at the show here.
All right. The next topic we want to talk about tonight is the town's financial situation. It's 18 months now that we haven't had the 10-11 audit. We desperately need to find out what the results are of that. I mean, if in fact that we're going to get an audit, which I certainly hope that we do, but we need to know, and we need to know soon. I know there was, here again at Monday night's meeting, there was some conversation that we see if we can't light a fire under the auditors and get moving on this sooner rather than later. We need to bring this 10-11 audit to a closure. I mean, the taxpayers have a right to know. The Board of Finance, which is us, the Board of Selectmen, need to know for various reasons.
Sure.
We can't craft a budget, and we need to know where those tax dollars are being spent. There is another problem, I guess, with the Finance Director's office, and we need to find out what's going on there too. If there is something wrong or if there's not. But I think the first order of business is the fact that we don't have the 10-11 audit, and that is first and foremost what we need to take care of, right away.
I agree, Ken. And just a little bit of background, Bloom Shapiro is the auditor responsible for that year. We have since hired a new firm to do the audits going forward, but the Bloom Shapiro team, headed by Vanessa Rosito, I think, is in the process, we understand, of evaluating the accounting that was done the prior year, and I understand that she's uncovered some circumstances that she's questioning. We don't have a lot more details other than that right now, but we do want to clearly and loudly state that we need to move this towards some kind of resolve, and whether it's we are getting an audit or we can't get an audit for whatever reason, or we're never going to get an audit, we can't continue to go on without getting any kind of response, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Right, and I think once Bloom Shapiro, as Glenn stated, takes care of the 10-11 audit, if there are other questions, if there's some doubts or anything whatsoever that needs to be resolved, that's a separate issue. If we need to have a forensic review, once we have the 10-11 audit complete, then the Board of Selectmen can sit down and discuss where and how we want to move forward on this. But it's absolutely critical that we find out where we stand in the 10-11 audit. And
we need our fund balance.
Right, that too.
And I know you asked at Monday's meeting, and the town manager, honestly stated that he didn't know. So it's something that obviously we need to know as a finance board. And again, as far as letting viewers know that is an important part of our function, as selectmen. We do act as a finance board as well. So details as far as cash flow, especially this time of year, Ken, because last year I think we ran into a situation where we had to ask Gilbert to forego.
Right, they postponed the payment at the town owes the school to in excess of $300,000.
Right.
I mean, there's been, and it's just not last year. The last 2 or 3 years, we've seemed to have run into a cash flow problem. There was talk, I believe, 2 years ago that we might borrow money. That's never going to happen this year.
Right.
I don't think we could borrow 10 cents as a town right now.
And there was an appeal for people to pay their taxes early, just because we had gotten to that December crunch time before tax payments started to come in, and that's really a result of the low fund balance that we had. And when we were seated last term, we tried to address that early on and move that money into the fund balance and get that up to a position where we wouldn't be, in such a precarious position this time of year.
Right.
And the majority saw fit to do
I think
otherwise.
the other thing that we could take out of this, this crisis that we're in, once again, I mean, here again we have an opportunity that's staring us right in the face. If we don't take this opportunity and restructure both the school and the town into one single accountable finance unit, then we all should be dismissed from office.
Right.
I mean, I've said this over and over again. We've had a town charter change. We've had votes. This is something that the taxpayers in town want to do, and unfortunately, it's just not been acted on.
Right.
And I think that's a huge mistake. I think, whenever something like this faces us and we have an opportunity to do the right thing, this is when we need to take action. And I don't think that we'll ever find a worse situation financially that we are in right now.
No, and I think that if we proceed cautiously, which I'm hoping and under the impression that we are right now, that the end result is, Ken, as you said, that we do move towards a direction where we have some fail-safes and not allow this to happen. Combine departments, engage the efficiencies, take advantage of the efficiencies that are staring us right in the face, because it really is the only way forward on this particular issue.
Right. I mean, I think we need to be seen and operate as one unit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this isn't the Hatfields and the McCoys.
Right.
I mean, and we need to get out of that mindset. I think that we have an opportunity here. We need to make the most of it, and I think this is one way that we can really take a giant step forward.
Right.
And bring these two entities together into one, and we'll have some efficiencies and we'll just do it right.
Mm-hmm. A little more background too. The finance director has tendered his resignation. He was continuing to work just basically out of courtesy to the town. The town managers indicated to us on Monday night that there are several people that have applied. It has to go through civil service, so that's in the process. We certainly, Ken and I, hope that a decision is made to hire a professional as quickly as possible, because I think that's starting to move the process in a positive direction. Obviously, without a finance director, we are at the mercy of the staff there to try to gather the information that we need to act as a finance board, and I'm sure that they're doing the best they can, but it is a little bit of an awkward situation as it exists right now.
Well, it's extremely awkward. And you mentioned earlier that I had requested from the town manager what our fund balance was, and he did not know. I asked him how much cash we had on hand. He didn't know that either. But in his next breath, he said that they are paying their bills, and I don't understand how you can pay bills unless they're just writing checks and not knowing what the balance is in the check account. I mean, there has to be at least some internal checks, so we're not writing checks that we can't cover.
Right.
I mean, it's just so basic, and it's extremely frustrating.
Right. And the communication has been a little lax from my perspective. I mean, obviously we want to tread lightly where we have to, but the information that we need to make sure we don't get caught and get blindsided in anything is critical. And hopefully, again, going forward, when we ask for the information, that they get it to us quickly, and it's as accurate as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, enough on the finances, I guess.
Yep.
We got to get off this ho-hum.
I know.
I guess next we'll talk about streamlining our local government.
Yes, and we had an interesting foray on that effort on Monday. A couple weeks, maybe a month back, I had thrown on the agenda, and again, in an effort to try to put some meat on the table as far as trying to get some stuff done. We've had so many meetings where we've basically done nothing other than transfer money, but we continue to see the streamlining of our government, local government, trying to make it as affordable as possible, that we have to make some changes, or at least consider some changes. And one of them I felt would be appropriate for discussion was an evaluation of civil service. Right now, it's the arm of our local government that hires new employees. It was put in place a while back, before my time, obviously, but and the intent, I think, was to make sure that people were hired through a professional process. It was supposed to eliminate any kind of nepotism or hiring people that knew people and
right. Favorites, relatives.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think overall it's functioned well. The problem that we've run into recently is that there's an expense to the commission as far as the examiner is concerned, and we recognized this a couple years ago when we put the budget together and felt that we could do without funding it, which we did. And the downside to that is that when hires need to be made, they're in a situation where if they don't have the necessary funding, they're not hiring the people that we need to bring on board. So long story short, is I threw it on the table that, should we take a look at disbanding this and moving to some other hiring process? And the head of the commission came in, and as the paper said, he and I traded barbs, which was a little unfortunate, because I think that I tried to make it clear that I wasn't, it wasn't a personal vendetta that I had with them at all. I appreciate what they do, and it's no reflection on what they've done in the past. It's just that we can save some money. Right now, we've got $6,000 in there with, I guess, an officer that needs to be hired for the police department, and from what I've heard, the cost of that hiring process can be upwards of $10,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough money to cover that. I mean, it's no different than, we have, we have now $100,000 to study or get some engineering started for the Halbert Avenue bridge process. I mean, it's not enough to do. It's no different than the revitalization. Now, there's $20,000 when we need $200,000. And I just want to go back a little bit with some history. I mean, when Wayne Dove was town manager here, in his exit report, which you read at the meeting Monday night, said it was Wayne's opinion that civil service was an unnecessary commission or board that we had here in town. It was redundant, and I agree with him. I think that nowadays between we have a labor lawyer and a town attorney. There's guidelines they need to follow. We'll take the police department just as an example. I think that Chief Scannell is more than capable
Absolutely.
of hiring an officer that he needs to fulfill his ranks.
Right.
And that's the expensive one, that's from my understanding, through civil service. They have to determine the test questions. You have to hire a chief examiner. It's a grueling, lengthy process. They maintain a list that's only good, I think, for 12 or 18 months, and then you have to start the process all over again.
Right.
So right now we're down, I believe, 3, maybe soon to be 4 officers. So there is some hiring that needs to take place, and where we would come up with 40 or 50,000 or more is beyond my. I don't know where we would find that money.
Right.
But and there's been other people. The community lawyer didn't think that we needed it. Years ago she thought that it was a great thing, and then she thought that it was an unnecessary addition. So I mean, there are people, and unfortunately, I think now it's turned into political more than anything else.
Yeah, and I thought that was clear the other night, because like I said, and I couldn't have been any more honest. I mean, it was no reflection on anyone on the commission, and not the work that they've done, but it just seems to us that if we want to move in the direction of streamlining our government, making it more affordable, which we've been saying from day one, you have to put some of these things on the table, discuss them, do the analysis. If it works out that you can hire people in town here and not incur the expense that civil service does, then to me, that's a no-brainer. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not going to vote for that until I see Dale come to us and say, here's the hiring practice that can replace civil service.
Right.
And am I going to just, because I want to get rid of civil service, vote that way? No. But I do think that, this is something that we can put on the table, look at the data and the facts, and make a pretty quick decision, because these things drag out, Ken. That's one thing I'm learning about local government is, the things that need to happen take way too long to happen. And in families and in businesses, the effective companies move these things, forward quickly.
Right, immediately.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not just making rash decisions. I'm not saying that, and I've never support anything like that. But the reality is that we need to take advantage of the opportunities that are staring us in the face. And this is one that I think is something that we can save money and probably put as good, if not better, hiring practice in place. That's my opinion. I could be proven wrong, but again, that's why I put it on the agenda, and why I felt a little taken back by the reaction the other night. But that's part of local politics, and I can handle that.
So, and we're going to see that more and more. I mean, it is a tough road that we have to hoe, and if we don't bring these things to the table and act on them, we're going to be in the same boat that we're in right now. I mean, all we're going to do is going round and round in a circle.
Right.
We need to start making some cuts other than just talking about it.
Right.
We can't talk about streamlining and restructuring, and then every agency that comes down the line,
Right.
Maintain it at the status quo.
Right. Because all of this, Ken, is going to come back to people wanting a new school or a renovated building or some improvement in the education department, and the fact that we have roads that are beyond disrepair at this point. And as we've said time and time again, the way you get to that side of the equation is to start to look for ways that you can save money. The people have spoken loud and clear with the tax, the referendums that we've had. They're unwilling at this point anyway to make an additional expenditure as far as taxes are concerned, because they haven't seen a real clear-cut plan as to how that money is going to get spent. We need to try to change that.
Well, we have to change it, and I don't think that it's so much that they're unwilling. I think most of them are unable to.
Right.
I mean, there's only so much money to go around. You know, I said before, you're not going to put more than 8 ounces of liquid in a glass that holds 8 ounces.
Right.
I mean, and we have to get away from this way of thinking. It's, you know, right now we're looking at a 20% increase in the mill rate. And this is what we campaigned for so hard when we were working on the budget was, you know, a zero isn't going to get us anyplace. You know, we need to be less than zero. And now moving ahead, looking into next year, you know, now we're staring at a deficit. You know, before we even start the process.
Right. And, Ken, listen, the other part that we're beginning to see a little bit, you know, I don't know the tax impact of the hospital moving out of town, but I know that the retirement home up by the lake has given notice that they are closing.
Spectrum Healthcare.
Exactly,
Right.
and I do think that there's going to be some tax impact there. So when we look at these numbers and we look at commercial and industrial facing some tax increases, it's going to be incumbent on us to try to make sure that we don't lose businesses. We lose businesses, we lose tax revenue. So we have our work cut out for us. There's no two ways about it. And again, I think as we do the analysis here, we try to look at things as you know, realistically as possible. You know, I mentioned common sense at the beginning of each show, and I do think that that's got to be the guiding force as we you know, put things in place and make decisions.
Right. In the same subject, while we're still here, the other subject we talked about Monday night was what I thought was the town manager was going to look into each and every department, see where the changes could be made, reductions, restructuring, possible privatization. And I was shocked as they were talking about that they mentioned the fact that they were going to have the department heads bring back this information. And, you know, I questioned everyone there, and, you know, I certainly hope that, you know, that's not the case. I mean, that's kind of like putting a hen in charge of the chicken coop, but you know, I hope we get some valuable information or some valid information, I guess I should say, because here again, if we don't win to change this, we're going to be right back in the same thing.
Right. And I think Dale did say that he was going to take Ken's suggestion and make sure that you know, he gathered input from the departments, but certainly not let them you know, lead the analysis. So.
Right. We also had Art Bogan there.
Yes.
To speak about some Brownsfields money. We spoke briefly about Lambert K. The work that's being done over at Gay Street for Carriage Maker Place. They ran into a few more problems over there, but you know, I thought it was a little, you know, somewhat shocking that. We heard nothing from Mike Ronzullo that night. I thought for sure that he would mention something about Capital Products and his project over there, but heard not a word.
No, but hopefully we will in coming meetings. And again, that's a key property to the turnaround downtown that we so desperately need.
Right.
Looks like we're closing in on our time tonight. Again, thank you everyone for taking a half hour out each week and watching Ken and I as we really try to help this town, you know, move forward on some good solid ideas.
And for those of you that are watching, I mean, if you want to really help and you think that we need to change things, make some phone calls, please, to your selectman, the town manager, or talk to these people when you see them on the streets in the grocery store. I mean, if you think that the status quo is fine, then that's fine with you. But if you think that we need to have some change, you need to be vocal about this. Call us, call the other selectmen, call a town manager. Let your voice be heard, let your ideas be known. That's the only way that we're going to be able to change this thing.
Well said, Ken. Well said. Thank you very much.